So from the experiences in...
No, you have to look at me. Start
Oh.
again. Yes.
Nopietni.
Jā. Centies nestīties augšā, bet vienkārši.
From the experience and practices in election security that we have seen in 4 countries that we're currently studying, Sweden, Latvia, Estonia, and Finland, we see that it's very, very important to establish functional working relationships with social media companies, because that gives us the knowledge and understanding on what their security philosophy is. What are they ready to do? How can we report suspicious action? How can we report, for example, impersonification? How we can report fake accounts, and what will they do and what will it take? How long will it take to solve this problem? However, we have seen that this is not enough to be sure that we are able to spot and monitor and analyze malicious influence activities, because we're always sort of a hostage of social media companies, because they're the ones who own the data. We only see the public face, but for example, in the case of Facebook, we do not have the access to data. And therefore, whatever they tell us is something that leaves us with guesstimations. This is true, or this is false, this is something natural, this is something organic, or this is something really serious. Therefore, we need to establish some sort of regulation that would ensure transparency, algorithmic transparency, which will allow us to access the data that is required for making these conclusions on if there is a malicious interference or there isn't. What we have right now in terms of regulation and what we have in terms of legislation basically depends on each and every single country. If there is a legislation that restricts, for example, the amount of political advertising, how much money is spent, or there's any kind of specific legislation, then Facebook and other social media companies, they have to follow it. But it doesn't mean that they do. Facebook does in terms of, for example, providing information on political advertising, but there are other social media companies and other online platforms who do not provide this kind of information, and there's nothing that the governments can do about it. What would be useful and the way to go from the perspective of countries who want to ensure free and fair elections is think about joint mechanisms, about joint solutions, how this kind of regulation could look like. There are discussions on this taking place already at the EU level, and eventually we will see some sort of a movement and changes in the next couple of years.
So maybe can you give an example of cross-country cooperation?
In terms of
Election security.
Well, when we see something in our information environment and we decide to either react on it or not to react on it, for example, if we see it as a trap that is out there, left for our media and our societies to react on, sort of a reflexive control, then it is also our task and also our duty to explain our strategy to our partners. Otherwise, there could be sort of overreaction from somebody else's side, and the trap would be still efficient on their side.
Can you give maybe an example of disinformation that was spread during the elections, or if you want?
For example, there have been instances when Sputnik has reported on something that has eventually happened, and nationally it has been sort of assessed and concluded that nothing like that has happened and no reaction has followed, in order not to fall for this trap and not to help this network to stir some sort of disinformation narrative. Nevertheless, from looking from another place, from another country, without the knowledge that nothing like this has happened, it can be interpreted as something that has actually taken place. So therefore, it is important to stay in touch, stay in contact, and explain the strategies and the understanding of the situation on the ground.
Es iedomājos, varbūt tu vari pateikt kaut kādu tādu, nenosaucot Facebook lapu vai kaut ko tam līdzīgu, bet, teiksim, sakot, ka tur tādu Facebook lapu, tur bija tādu video, kur nebija iespējams noteikt, vai viņi ir autentiski vai nē. Nu, kaut kā tādu tīri praktisku, lai varētu saprast, ko tad tas nozīmē.
There have been instances when, for example, suddenly an innocent video becomes viral. And over a couple of years, we see that the reach of this video has been over 50% of the social media platform users in a particular country. What the country can do at this point in time is try to, of course, understand what it is with all the possible analysis tools in the place. But that is possible only if the social media platform actually does allow access to the data. If social media company does not ensure that kind of access, the governments are left wondering, is it natural, is it organic, or this is something that we should be worried about. But for the users of the social media platform, it simply looks as everybody else around you is talking about this. Everybody else is sharing it, commenting it, and therefore it looks genuine, it looks organic.
I think it's very good. I think that's enough. Do you have the same feeling?
Zin kā mums secinājumi daudz par sadarbību ar mēdījiem, par sadarbību ar nevalstiskajām organizācijām. One of the strands of work for election security is, of course, establishing networks with non-governmental organizations, cooperation networks with media organizations, in order to boost their resilience and in order to boost their awareness of potential threats and risks that they could be challenged with. And it is very, very important that all the members of the civic society, be it individuals, organizations, or media, they approach election security as a common task, as a common joint task.
Varbūt tu vari iedot kādu piemēru, kā nodrošina to sadarbību, nu tur kaut kādas regulāras tikšanās vai tur seminārs, nezinu kas.
What the governments and government institutions can do is provide the relevant information, intel information, if possible, to media organizations. What has happened in the 4 countries that we have studied?
What has happened to the countries we studied? Nosauc viņas.
What has happened in the 4 countries that we've studied, Sweden, Latvia, Estonia, and Finland, the governments have established mechanisms how they ensure that there are dedicated training activities, training efforts for media taking place, so that media would be in a position of the knowledge how to, for example, analyze the content, how to spot disinformation, what tools to use, what kind of trends could they be seeing, what would be the specific risks or challenges that they could face in the processes before the elections, during the elections, and also afterwards. What is the specific role that they are playing? And this is all boosting the, let's say, the common resilience of election security.